Anthropic has also released Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which is its most intelligent AI model to date, and what they're calling the first, quote, hybrid reasoning model on the market. What makes this model so unique is its dual mode approach. Users can choose between a standard mode for quick responses or an extended thinking mode where the model performs step by step reasoning that's made visible to the user. So, Anthropic says this is because they believe that, quote, just as humans use a single brain for both quick responses and deep reflection, we believe reasoning should be an integrated capability of frontier models rather than a separate model entirely. In early testing, Claude 3.7 Sonnet has shown particularly impressive results in coding and web development. Some major tech companies, according to Anthropic, have already noticed improvements. AI programming assistant company Cursor found Claude to be, quote, best in class for real world coding tasks. Versal highlighted its exceptional precision for complex agent workflows. And Replit has reportedly succeeded in using the model to build sophisticated web apps from scratch where other models stall. Now, along with this model release, Anthropic also introduced Claude Code, which is a command line tool for agentic coding available as a limited research preview. This tool enables developers to delegate substantial engineering tasks to Claude directly from their terminal. Claude Code can search and read code, edit files, write and run tests, commit and push code to GitHub, and use command line tools, keeping the human developer informed at each step. So Claude 3.7, if you're trying to use 3.7 Sonnet, that's now available on all Claude plans, as well as through the Anthropic API. However, the extended thinking mode is only available on the paid tiers. So Paul, you had just alluded to this. This seems like a preview of where we're headed with GPT-5 models that bake thinking right into a single model. What do you think of their hybrid reasoning approach and also kind of their justification for it as the way the human brain works?
This reminds me so much of their fall launch of computer use,
Yeah.
where they presented it as like this groundbreaking thing that only they had solved. And this is not a knock on Anthropic, by the way. This is just how they're doing their marketing right now and communication stuff. Um, so they're presenting this as like we've cracked that reasoning should be part of these models. Like everybody's doing this. Like they just literally put out a 3.7 just to be first to market with some early version of an LLM plus reasoning. But it's literally what Gemini is doing. It's what OpenAI is going to do with ChatGPT and things like that. So, yeah, all response has been really positive that I have seen. I have not personally tested 3.7, but everything I've seen about it is that it's a very strong model. I thought it was interesting in their, I think it was their system card where they said it that they've optimized less for math and computer science competition problems, which you kind of highlight as like where it's actually really seems really good, like the
Yeah.
results are really good. And instead, they shifted their focus towards real world tasks that better reflect how businesses actually use LLMs. But I couldn't actually find any reports of what those were. Like
Yeah.
it just alluded to it, but it didn't show those. So um, it's good. Like that's what we were saying a couple episodes ago. Like that's what we want. Is like focus on actual use cases. So that's great. Like if they're doing that, I would love to see that research. One thing jumped out to me is they shared this timeline in the post.
Hmm.
I don't know if this is the system card post or the original post, but in this timeline, they show Claude Assistants, then 2024, then they showed Claude Collaborators, which is 2025, where it's like helping you do extensive work, in much shorter time periods. So Claude does hours of independent work for you on par with experts, expanding what every person or team is capable of. So that's like 3.7, then I assume Claude 4 Opus, like, because again, this isn't even their biggest model. Like, the
Yeah.
thing with Anthropic that's kind of odd is, like, Opus is their biggest model, and they just keep releasing Haiku and Sonnet. I think Haiku's still a thing. Haiku's, like, their mini, and then Sonnet is, like, their medium, and then Opus is the big
Hmm.
model, and
Right.
that's the one that we've been sitting here waiting for, like, 12 months. So, my guess is at some point we get, like, 4 Opus or maybe it's 4 Sonnet. I don't know what they're gonna do. But they're obviously, like, 3.7 is very much this intermediate step before the 4. But then in their timeline, they show 2026 isn't present. They just go right to 2027. It says Claude pioneers. Claude finds breakthrough solutions to challenging problems that would have taken teams years to achieve. So they're very much following, and the graph is representative of scaling laws. So if you look at this, and I think it is intentionally showing what a scaling law graph might look like. And based on Dario Amade's comments that we talked about on the podcast a couple weeks ago, they seem to very much be positioning themselves as like Claude 5, I'm guessing, in their world, is like AGI. And
Mhm.
so this is again a step toward. It is the first one to combine reasoning and traditional LLMs, and I think it is a prelude to these much bigger things that Dario has already alluded to, which again tells me they're that we talked about the two kind of scaling laws up front here with GPT 4.5. You have the traditional unsupervised training, more data, and they just get, better and smarter. And then you have the reasoning, which is the test time, which is like give them more time to think. And when you combine those two scaling laws, the assumption from all these major labs seems to be we get AGI. That
Mm.
we enter the phrase where these things are just now better than humans at basically all cognitive tasks, and the 2027 that they marked here seems to be around where everybody is kind of centering on what we will have it by then, which isn't very far away, Mike.
Yeah, no kidding. It's kind of snuck up on me. It's interesting too because Anthropic comes out with this model. It seems to get pretty good press and reviews. The Wall Street Journal has just announced they're trying to raise another 3.5 billion at a $61.5 billion valuation. I mean, despite the competition, it still seems like Anthropic is a major player here. Obviously, not as well funded or as big as some of the others, but it might not matter if they make it to AGI first, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I think there's still a chance Anthropic manages to stay independent and achieve their research and business missions and, get the AGI and maybe, become one of those top 3 model companies.
Yeah.
I also think there's a probably greater probability that they get acquired, or maybe honestly, like, maybe their play is to be a wildly profitable lab and product company that just infuses their models into other people's,
Hmm.
technology and distribution channels. Because like we talked about last week, they have nothing other than that. Like, they maybe have great models. Well, they definitely have great models, I'll give them that. They have an amazing research team. They have apparently, like, a greater focus on safety and alignment than other people, and they're doing some interesting things there. They have no data, like, nothing of their
Right.
own. They have no products that they would get data from. They have no distribution other than the app itself. So they're kind of, like, a little bit behind when compared to an Amazon and Google, Meta, OpenAI increasingly. But yeah, that's just the challenge they have. Brilliant researchers, great models, no data, no distribution.